Okay, so seasons 1 and 2 of Atypical. Um, they're short seasons for especially with sitcom. Netflix. So I think the 8 and 10 episodes. Um, One of the few shows that I've actually lost time watching recently. There's a lot of other stuff going on, obviously, so it just could be this the dates uh, benefiting the show, but it does have Jennifer Jason Leigh, and obviously someone I've been watching most of her career. Uh, and she basically is a doppelganger for an old friend of mine. So that sort of connects something. I see a lot of, physically as well as other aspects of my friend, which draws me to things that she does. But, and of course, Rappaport, who I've once again been watching for well over 3 decades. His career develop and grow. The kids, well, I say kids, but I think they're middle-aged because Hollywood won't hire kids because you got to keep kids safe from producers. I don't understand what it is. But basically, they're like now the two main characters, the actors are 25, and one is basically 16 and the other is 18 in the show for both seasons. So obviously you want someone who's not going to continue aging. We've discussed this many times. It's something I really hate when they do that. Because physically, I mean, the crow's feet really throw you off. It's supposed to be a 16-year-old. They're not supposed to have crow's feet. The makeup is flighty. The lighting is not always cohesive with the makeup for the ladies. As Jennifer, one minute she looks 70, the next minute she looks 40. It's one of those things that you got to have some more consistency in there. As far as the concept about raising an autistic child, but he's high function on the spectrum. It's not quite like the character in Parenthood, where he was not as high functioning, but still high functioning enough to make the scripts a little smoother. Because, which brings me back in memory to Facts of Life when I was a kid. One of those shows I somehow, anyways, they were one of the first mainstream series to have a regular cast member that not only portrayed a person with a condition. I don't even know what the look, the terminology changes every 6 months, and I'm not keeping up with it. But what we called back then disabilities, alternately abled, ended up somewhere in the 90s, I think. But she was a regular cast member, and she did well. Which I don't see happening with these characters today. That may or may not be possible. Well, obviously anything's possible, but it's not being done. I mean, it's basically like, only hiring seeing characters to play seeing actors to play blind characters. And it just never really looks right, and it doesn't feel right. Um, I mean, high functioning. I'm not that familiar with autism to actually judge how accurate this character portrayal is. So I have to make that point that I can't make that point. And then there are some other things that they're adapting the storyline because, of course, they have to include all these other issues that have to be included in everything, which is the only thing that they actually don't even make an issue of is race. The multiracial cast. I mean, I'm happy that after all these decades, we've finally moved past that, where it's not even blinking the eye anymore that you have an interracial cast. So that's good, but it's the other thing. If they could treat the other as well, they're portrayed as issues. If they could treat the other issues as race is being treated, then they wouldn't be issues. So, well, I look forward to season 3.